never planned to tell this story. For a long time, I convinced myself it was just exhaustion, bad timing, my mind filling in gaps that didn't need filling. But the older I get, the harder it is to ignore how real it felt, and how certain moments still don't make sense no matter how many times I replay them. This happened when I was 24, living in a quiet suburban town in the Midwest. I worked late shifts at a warehouse, the kind of job where your body goes on autopilot and your thoughts wander. I didn't own a car back then, so I rode my bike everywhere. It was cheaper, faster, and honestly, I enjoyed the solitude of riding at night. That's what makes this story harder to explain, because cycling after dark had never scared me before, not until that night. My shift ended just after midnight. The parking lot was mostly empty, and the air had that late summer heaviness, warm but stale, like the day never fully let go. I checked my phone, put my earbuds in without music, and got on my bike. I always did that, just in case someone tried to talk to me. The ride home was about 4 miles, mostly residential streets, with long stretches of road lights and quiet intersections. Halfway home, there was a shortcut I usually took through a bike trail that cut behind a wooded area and came out near my apartment complex. It shaved off almost 10 minutes, and I'd ridden it hundreds of times. That trail is where everything changed. The entrance to the path was darker than usual. 2 of the streetlights near it were out, leaving the pavement washed in moonlight instead. I hesitated for a second, then told myself I was being stupid. I'd ridden this trail in worse conditions. As soon as I entered, the sounds of the road faded behind me. My tires hummed against the asphalt, steady and familiar. About a minute in, I noticed I wasn't alone. At first, it was subtle, a sound that didn't match my rhythm. Another set of tires. I slowed slightly and glanced back. In the distance, maybe 50 yards behind me, was another cyclist. I couldn't make out details, just a silhouette, moving at a steady pace. That wasn't unusual either. People use the trail late sometimes. Still, something about it made me uneasy. I sped up a little. So did they. I told myself it was coincidence. I turned a bend in the trail, and for a moment, I lost sight of them. I relaxed, feeling embarrassed for getting nervous. Then I heard it again, closer this time. I didn't look back right away. I focused on my breathing, the sound of my chain, the beam of my bike light cutting a narrow tunnel ahead. When I finally glanced over my shoulder, the cyclist was much closer than before. Close enough that I could see they weren't using a light. Just a dark shape, pedaling smoothly, almost silently. No reflective gear, no helmet that I could see. That's when my stomach dropped. I sped up again, pushing harder. My legs burned, but the distance between us didn't change. If anything, it felt like they were matching my pace exactly. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe they were just going the same speed. Maybe they didn't realize how creepy it looked. Then I slowed suddenly and pulled to the side, pretending to adjust my chain. I wanted them to pass me so I could see them clearly. The sound behind me slowed too. They didn't pass. They stopped. I waited a few seconds, heart pounding, then looked back. The trail behind me was empty. No cyclist, no sound, just darkness and the faint rustle of trees. I stood there longer than I should have, scanning the trail. I couldn't see anyone. I convinced myself they'd turned around or taken another path. Feeling stupid again, I got back on my bike and started riding. I didn't make it far before the sound returned, right behind me. This time, I didn't look back. I took off as fast as I could, adrenaline flooding my body. The trail felt longer than it ever had before. My light flickered once, and panic surged through me. I kept pedaling, lungs burning, legs screaming. I could hear them clearly now, too clearly. Still no light. Just the steady, controlled sound of tires and breathing. Breathing that wasn't mine. That's when I realized something was wrong in a way I couldn't explain. No matter how fast I went, the distance never closed or widened. They stayed right there, just out of sight. Like they didn't need to push harder. Like this pace was effortless. I reached the final stretch of the trail where it opened up near the apartments. I could see the streetlights ahead, bright and comforting. I was seconds away from safety. Then I felt it, a light tap on the back of my seat. Not enough to knock me over, just enough to let me know they were there. I screamed and swerved, nearly losing control. I burst out onto the street and skidded to a stop under the nearest light. I jumped off my bike and turned around, shaking, ready to yell, ready to fight if I had to. There was no one there. The trail entrance was empty, silent. I stood there for a long time, trying to catch my breath, telling myself it was over. I walked my bike the rest of the way home. I didn't ride again for weeks. Eventually, life moved on. I told the story a few times, usually laughing it off. But things didn't end there. Over the next few months, strange things started happening when I rode at night, even on busy streets. I'd hear tires behind me and turn around to find nothing. I'd feel that same pressure, like someone was pacing me just out of view. Once, I saw a shadow moving alongside me that didn't match my speed or shape. I stopped riding at night entirely after that. I sold the bike a year later. I thought that would be the end of it. But last fall, while driving home late from work, I passed the entrance to that same trail. There was a small memorial by the path. Flowers, a white bike frame chained to a signpost. I pulled over and read the plaque. It was for a cyclist killed in a hit and run on that trail, years before I ever moved there. The date was almost exactly the same night I had my encounter. I don't know what followed me that night. I don't know if it was a person, a memory, or something else entirely. All I know is that sometimes, when I'm driving with the windows down late at night, I still hear it. Tires on pavement, matching my speed, just out of sight, waiting for me to slow down. I'm not sharing this for attention, and I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. I just need to put it somewhere, because pretending it didn't happen hasn't worked. This happened 3 years ago when I was 27, living in a small town in Oregon. I worked early mornings at a coffee distribution center, which meant clocking in at 4:30 a.m. I lived close enough to ride my bike, and I preferred it. The roads were empty at that hour, and riding before sunrise felt peaceful in a way I can't really explain unless you've done it. The town was still asleep, the air cold and sharp, everything muted and unreal. My route was simple. 2 miles through residential streets, then a long straight road that bordered a nature preserve, and finally a short industrial stretch before the warehouse. I took that route 5 days a week, rain or shine, for almost a year. Nothing unusual ever happened until the morning I wish I'd just called in sick. It was late October, still dark at 4 a.m., with a thin fog clinging to the ground. I remember noticing how quiet it was, even quieter than usual. No distant traffic, no dogs barking, not even wind. My bike light cut through the fog in a narrow cone, and my breath puffed out in little white clouds. I reached the long road by the preserve and settled into a steady pace. About halfway down that stretch, I noticed a red blinking light ahead of me. At first, I assumed it was another cyclist heading in the same direction. That wasn't unheard of. A few people worked early shifts like I did. As I got closer, something felt off. The light wasn't moving away from me like it should have been. It stayed the same distance ahead, no matter how fast I pedaled. I slowed down. The light slowed too. I stopped completely. The light stopped. My heart started to beat harder, but I told myself it was probably someone stopped on the side of the road, maybe adjusting something. I rode forward slowly, calling out a casual, "Hey." No response. The fog thickened, swallowing everything beyond a few yards. When I was close enough, I realized the light wasn't attached to a bike. It was just there, hovering at about waist height, blinking steadily. No silhouette, no sound, just the light. I stopped again, my skin prickling. I laughed nervously and said out loud, "Okay, that's enough," expecting my voice to break the silence. It didn't. The sound felt like it vanished as soon as it left my mouth. The light blinked twice, then turned off. The road ahead was empty. I stood there for a full minute, staring into the fog, trying to convince myself I was overtired. I'd been working too many hours. That's all it was. I rode past where the light had been, my muscles tense, eyes scanning everything. Nothing happened for the rest of the ride. I got to work, told no one, and buried it. The next morning, the fog was back. Same temperature, same silence. I reached the preserved road with a knot already forming in my stomach. I told myself I wouldn't overthink it. About a quarter mile in, I saw the light again. This time, it was behind me. I didn't notice it at first. I noticed the reflection. A faint red blink flashing across the wet pavement beneath my wheels. I slowed, pretending to adjust my grip, and glanced back. The red light hovered behind me at a fixed distance, perfectly centered in the lane. No bike, no footsteps, just the light. I pedaled harder. The light followed. I swerved slightly to the side. The light corrected itself, staying directly behind me. Panic started to creep in. I turned off my bike light, plunging myself into near total darkness except for that red blink. It stayed, matching me, watching. I reached the end of the road and burst onto the industrial street, where streetlights buzzed overhead. The light vanished instantly. I stopped under the first lamp, shaking, heart racing. I checked my phone. It was 4:12 a.m. I was 10 minutes early. I stood there until I saw a truck pass, just to feel less alone, then rode the rest of the way to work. I considered telling my supervisor, but how would that sound? Instead, I avoided the preserved road the next day, taking a longer route through town. Nothing happened. I felt stupid for being scared. The day after that, I went back to my usual route. No fog this time. Clear air. I relaxed a little. Then about halfway down the road, I felt it. Not saw it, felt it. That sensation of being watched, of something directly behind you without needing to look. The red light appeared slowly this time, fading into existence like it was being turned on, dimmer by dimmer. I didn't slow down. I didn't look back. I pedaled harder than I ever had, my legs screaming. The light stayed with me, closer now. Close enough that I could see it wasn't blinking anymore. It was steady, solid, right behind me. Then I heard something new. A soft clicking sound, like gears turning. But not bike gears, slower, heavier. The clicking synced with my pedaling, as if whatever was behind me was mimicking my movement. I was seconds from the end of the road when the clicking stopped. The light surged forward, suddenly beside me. For a split second, I saw it clearly. Not a light attached to something. Just a red glow suspended in the air, pulsing faintly, casting a weak reflection on my handlebars. I felt a cold brush against my arm, like someone passing too close. I lost control and crashed, skidding across the pavement. When I looked up, the light was gone. I sat there bleeding, shaking, trying not to cry, until a passing car stopped and the driver helped me up. I told them I hit a slick patch. I quit that job a week later. I stopped riding my bike altogether. I moved out of town 6 months after that. I thought distance would fix it. It didn't. Last month, I was driving home late from work in my new city when I stopped at a red light. In my rearview mirror, I saw it. A faint red glow, hovering at about trunk height behind my car. Steady, watching. The light turned green. I drove. The glow followed, only disappearing when I pulled into my driveway and shut the garage door. I don't ride bikes anymore. I don't even like being on the road before sunrise. And sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet and still, I swear I hear that clicking sound, slow and patient, like something waiting for me to start moving again. I never thought something like this could happen to me, which is probably why it stayed with me the way it did. I'm not superstitious, and I'm not the kind of person who jumps at shadows. I grew up in a pretty normal town in Arizona, the kind of place where nothing really happens, and nights are quiet except for distant highway noise. This happened when I was 22, during my last year of college. I worked part-time delivering food for extra cash, But on days when business was slow, I'd take my bike instead of the car to save gas and clear my head. One night in early spring, I decided to ride home. After closing, instead of waiting around for more orders, it was around 1:15 a.m. The streets were mostly empty, the air still warm from the day, and the sky had that dull orange glow from city lights. I lived about 3 miles away, and the fastest way home was a long service road that ran parallel to the freeway. It wasn't sketchy, just isolated. I'd ridden it dozens of times before. That night, I remember feeling unusually alert, like my body was tense without a reason. About 10 minutes into the ride, I noticed a bike, lying on its side near the edge of the road. At first glance, it looked like it had been dropped in a hurry. The front wheel was still spinning slightly, reflecting the streetlight. I slowed down, scanning the area. I didn't see anyone. I called out, asking if someone needed help. My voice echoed oddly against the concrete sound barriers. No answer. I told myself maybe someone wiped out and walked their bike home or got picked up. Still, it bothered me. I rode past it, glancing back once more before continuing. A few hundred yards later, I heard the sound of pedaling behind me. It was faint at first, just a soft, rhythmic clicking. I assumed it was another cyclist and moved slightly to the side to give them room. They didn't pass me. The sound stayed behind, matching my speed. I sped up a little. So did they. I slowed down. The sound slowed too. I felt that familiar spike of anxiety, but I told myself not to overreact. It was late. I was tired. I glanced over my shoulder. The road behind me was empty. No bike, no rider, just the long stretch of asphalt under streetlights. The sound stopped the moment I looked. I laughed quietly at myself and kept riding. That's when I felt it. A subtle vibration through the frame of my bike, like someone had brushed against my back tire. I swerved slightly, heart racing, and looked back again. Nothing. I told myself it was the road surface, maybe a crack or debris. I kept going, but my pace picked up without me realizing it. About a minute later, the pedaling sound returned. Louder this time, closer. I didn't look back again. I focused on the road ahead, the glow of the next streetlight, the hum of the freeway to my left. The sound stayed perfectly in sync with my movements. Like an echo that shouldn't exist, I reached an intersection where the service road dipped under an overpass. The lights there were dimmer, flickering slightly. As I rode under it, the sound behind me suddenly stopped. I felt relief wash over me, just for a second. Then I heard something new. Breathing. Not heavy, not panicked. Calm. Steady. Right behind my right shoulder. I froze instinctively, slamming the brakes and hopping off my bike. I spun around, fists clenched, adrenaline flooding my body. There was no one there. The underpass was empty. No footsteps, no movement, just my own breath echoing in the concrete space. I stood there shaking, telling myself I was imagining things. I mounted my bike again and started riding. Slower now, every nerve on edge. As soon as I cleared the underpass, I saw something ahead that made my stomach drop. Another bike. Standing upright this time, right in the middle of the road, perfectly balanced. No kickstand. No rider. The pedals weren't moving. It was just there. I slowed to a stop, staring at it. The bike looked old, rusted in places, with worn grips and a cracked seat. It didn't look like something anyone would abandon in the middle of the road. I didn't want to get closer, but the road was narrow, and I couldn't easily go around it. I considered turning back, but the idea of riding past the underpass again made my skin crawl. I decided to walk my bike around it quickly and get back on the road. As I stepped closer, I noticed something that made my chest tighten. The bike's chain was still warm. I didn't know how I knew, but when my knuckle brushed it accidentally, I felt it, like it had just been ridden. I backed away immediately. That's when the pedaling sound started again. Not behind me, all around me, echoing from the underpass, the sound barriers, the road itself. Multiple sets of pedals, all perfectly out of sync, surrounding me. I dropped my bike and ran. I didn't look back. I sprinted down the road toward the next intersection, lungs burning, heart hammering. The sounds followed me, growing louder, closer, until they abruptly stopped the moment I reached the lit intersection and nearly collided with a passing car. I stood there gasping, tears in my eyes, while the driver yelled something I couldn't hear. I didn't care. I walked the rest of the way home, pushing my bike, glancing over my shoulder every few steps. Nothing else happened that night. I barely slept. The next day, I went back in my car during daylight, telling myself I needed proof that nothing was wrong. The service road looked normal. No bikes, no marks on the road, nothing out of place. I felt embarrassed for scaring myself. I avoided riding at night after that, but a few weeks later, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. A small news article about a cyclist who had been killed on that service road years earlier. Hit and run. Unsolved. The photo showed his bike. Old, rusted, cracked seat. I sold my bike shortly after that. Even now, years later, whenever I drive late at night and pass that stretch of road, I swear I hear it sometimes. Pedals clicking softly, just out of sight, like something waiting for me to slow down enough to catch up.